we are going to welcome Danielle Rice. What's up, Danielle?
Hello, good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. Danielle is no stranger to these parts, and so we're thrilled to have you on. Danielle is the Chief Technology Officer for Dunham Company, and Danielle, you currently work with a tremendous number of faith-based causes, but you've also worked with vast array, diverse causes in the past. As we continue this conversation on authenticity and being you, what are some transferable obstacles that you have seen from across cause sectors?
Yeah, when I think about that, when I hear that, my mind immediately goes to technology changes, because whether it's nonprofit or even for-profit, you really can't escape that. When Google decides to make a change, when algorithms are updated, when there's a new social media platform, most organizations are caught wondering, well, what do I do now? So that definitely keeps you on your toes, and how you react to that may or may not allow your message to get shared and shared to the right people. And at the same time, still having to manage internal capacity, because you can't be everything to everyone everywhere. So it's trying to strategically be in those new places, align with those new platform changes. I think everyone's going through that right now.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a whole heck of a lot. And I think that you're right. There is this across all cause sectors you see right now, this conundrum, this rock and a hard place of understanding change, enabling change. As we heard Jeffrey Appel from Heller Consulting say earlier, manage the human part of change internally, and not forgetting about what that means to connect with our constituent base externally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree with that, especially with being able to manage changes internally. We sometimes look at a bit of a content pyramid as we're kind of testing into new areas or new platforms to say, hey, what are we already doing that we can start to split off this content into this new social media platform? An example of that is like Threads. Is our audience there? Is it worth going after? If so, can we start to take existing content, put it on that platform? If it's resonating, okay, then let's double down on that if we're seeing it as a viable channel. If not, then let's move on from it and not have to be everywhere. I think for most of our organizations, it's drawing that line back up to the brand strategy and making sure, is this a place we need to be because it aligns with our core mission and values and what we're trying to do to move forward to reach our goals? Or does it just feel like extra energy right now?
Yeah, Danielle, you mentioned the brand and brand strategy. And so I'm curious, can you talk to us a little bit about what it means to create a cut through for brand storytelling?
Absolutely. And I think to that point, it's storytelling, because a lot of times, we've got monthly communications going out. It's like the email needs to go out, the direct mail needs to go out, the text messages need to be sent. But imagine you are creating a movie. Imagine you're reading a book. You're telling a story of why that individual needs to give. And a couple of questions just to put the filter through is, well, why should they care? And sometimes that can be a really, really hard question to ask and answer, because it should be obvious, right? Or why wouldn't you care about this cause? It's doing amazing work. But why should your audience care? And being really explicit around that to make sure everyone knows that. The other thing is, well, why you? Because there are other water organizations, there are other faith-based organizations, there are other churches. Why you and why now? And so being able to have that brand strategy means that you have your positioning in the marketplace, but it also means that you have the guardrails that are appropriate to take any graphic designer, any writer, any web developer, and they know the guardrails to stay within. So you don't have this like schizophrenic view of what your organization is. I've seen that a lot with online does it this way and direct mail does it this way, or we have this personality on social media. And so people are not one channel people, they're multi-channel, they're omni-channel. And so we need strategies that align with that so that when they receive that direct mail piece, you don't feel like a different organization than when they saw you on social media or they received a digital ad. The reason why that's important is because you lose trust every time that happens, especially, imagine it, compared to relationships. If every time I introduced myself, I had a different name, or I had a totally different style, or something was like wildly different about me, you're like, who are you again? I don't feel like we're connecting. And so if we're talking about fundraising and donor retention, you retain those donors by growing that trust over year after year. So that consistency has to be there as well.
And what a great connection to the idea of authenticity.
Oh, yeah.
There are times to where channel by channel, we might show up more authentic than not. And it's actually really dangerous to say out loud and process the idea that maybe we're more authentic in one way that we communicate with a donor versus in another way. But taking inventory of that is a strong place to start. Authenticity, Danielle, has relevance across all constituent types, across all age groups. But you and your team in particular have some interesting work around younger donors. And so we'd like to spend a little bit of time unpacking that. How does the idea of authenticity, or as we're calling it, how does the idea of being you look differently amongst different age groups?
Yeah. So when you look at different age groups, some of them are in their what we call giving years, and some are not. So having the different expectation or call to action at every generation at this point may not be the best way to go. You may have someone, there was an organization that we worked with, they wanted to really attract 20-something donors. And so at this point, we recommended, hey, maybe that's an advocacy group. They can really help you top of the funnel, grow more reach, grow more engagement. They know your 60+ donor as well, and they can grow your reach. They're a part of your community just in a nuanced way. And different generations like receiving those communications in different ways. I think some would be surprised to see how well direct mail is continuing to do, especially amongst, 30-something, 40-something donors who are starting to reach their peak earning years. It's a new channel for them. It's not one that's being overwhelmed like email is. But then you have even newer channels that are still on the horizon with AR and VR and all the new things Meta is putting out. And so I think at the end of the day, it's less about what channel we use and more about what message we have, because the right message at the right time will allow that individual to resonate with it. I really like what the last guy was saying around not only the messages that you're sending them, but what messages are they sending you. User-generated content across the board, doesn't matter what generation, is something that people feel attached to your organization when they're willing to contribute that content. But when others see it, that just adds to the level of credibility as well, because they see not just, one-way communication, push it all out there. They see other people that they can align and see themselves in also communicating, also saying, oh my gosh, this organization really touched me, or I'm so grateful I was able to contribute in this way. So user-generated content across the board has been really helpful in reaching those different generations.
And giving you data and context that creates that feedback loop, right? Yeah. So too often in operating marketing fundraising programs, we miss the feedback loops. We only look at one set of data for, interpreting feedback, and it's almost always just the transactions versus, like you said, either content that they're pushing back to us, ways that they're contributing to surveys, et cetera, et cetera. Kate, one of the reasons why I was so excited to have Danielle be a part of this conversation today is because in so many years and so many different relationships and hearing different presentations, Danielle stands out to me as someone that contributed. She has no idea what I'm about to say. I can tell it on her face. One of the most authentic answers that I saw play out, and that's, whenever she was asked to describe her approach to working with organizations, she showed a picture of an umbrella. and then talked about how she truly believes that her role is to provide that barrier of protection for the organizations that she's working with. So whether or not that's rain coming down or the sun coming down or wind in their face or snow. And this is my parody years later, Danielle, but it's always stuck with me as a way that you authentically showed up that day that I saw play out in so many other aspects. I'm curious, as you engage with organizations, what advice or counsel have you or would you give them on being more authentic?
That's good. I honestly believe it's a little bit of an art and a science. It's funny. I have not thought about that umbrella analogy in years. So it's crazy that that's come back up. I definitely remember that. I would say art and a science because at the end of the day, the art side is you want it to resonate. You want whatever your message is to resonate with those individuals. And some of that just has to come from the heart, from whoever's designing or writing or whatever the communication is, being able to identify that in a way that just connects human to human. There's no like AI generated content that just gets to the heart and soul of someone, at least not yet. We'll see. The science part of it is not just having that umbrella and carrying it around with you every day, but being able to say, here's the weather forecast. Today we need an umbrella. This day we need snow boots. This day, you know, where we don't need a jacket today. We're going out because the sun is shining. And so the science part is having fundraising analytics at your fingertips so you can be prepared for what you need when you need it.
Yeah, I think it's one of those areas we touched on earlier. It's less, part of it is looking back and looking at what's happened, but also having that current look of like what's ahead so that you can be prepared to pivot when needed.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of that pivot, you know, I've seen organizations go almost too far with that to say, hey, we're going to like update this and then update it again and making optimizations that don't actually move the needle. So again, going back to that brand strategy, that isn't just the look and feel. It's not just the logo. It's what matters to us. And from that, you should be defining metrics that matter to you as well, so that you're not just creating 50 pieces of versioned content just to say we did and we're testing. What actually is moving the needle to those primary goals that we're all trying to get to and we're all on the same page for?
Listen, let's not lose the point that a brand strategy or a brand in and of itself is not a PDF. Like that's like it is. Brand is the flubby thing that we hold, that we portray and carry stuff out as, right? And so yes, absolutely. For those that are nonprofit leaders, you are representing the cause. Every time that you stand up in front of a room, every lunch that you have with a potential donor, every, you know, gala presentation that you give, every time that you think through a direct mail piece, you are representing, you're an ambassador and apostle for the brand. And so what a cool opportunity for you to get to reframe authenticity in how that is going to connect with someone.
Yeah, absolutely. The last thing I'll say on that is being able to do that in a way that has a level of input from those that you're serving, being able to show up in a way that is honoring to them as well. I think that's also part of that be you, be authentic. It's like authentically representing your audience in that picture as well.
Right on.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Danielle, so much for your time and for sharing your perspective on this beacon. We appreciate it.
No problem. Good to see you.